From WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We have breaking news tonight. 2 more arrests in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. Police say an 18-year-old and 14-year-old are in custody.
A total of 4 teens have now been arrested and charged for their roles in the rampage. But still, police have no one in custody for the deadly shots that claimed the lives of 2 young people that July night.
These young people that we're discussing today made the wrong choice that ended lives and changed countless forever.
It will be over when we find everyone who pulled the trigger that night and contributed to the 30 people being wounded.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. We have team coverage on the latest arrests and the ongoing response to the Brooklyn Day mass shooting.
Let's start with Rebecca Pryor right now with today's announcement. Rebecca?
Yeah, tonight we're getting a much clearer picture of what happened during the deadly mass shooting. According to police, the teens accused of pulling the trigger allegedly acting together.
2 months after the worst mass shooting in Maryland's history.
We're here today to provide an update on the Brooklyn criminal investigation.
Local and federal officials joining forces to bring in 2 new arrests.
This investigation has truly been an all-hands-on-deck approach.
One suspect just 14 years old, preventing law enforcement from disclosing his identity. The other, 18-year-old Aaron Brown, who charging documents reveal acted alongside 18-year-old Tristan Jackson, the first alleged gunman charged 2 weeks prior. Investigators claiming both teens caught entering the event together on police surveillance cameras. And when brought in for questioning, Brown admitting to firing shots inside Gretna Court, the heart of the block party turned crime scene. Charging documents going on to say in the midst of the chaos, Brown sustaining a shot to his hand. Brown, Jackson, and an unidentified third party then flee to a side street where Brown passes the gun to Jackson, who continues the firing, this time at 7 people who are running away. That very gun allegedly found during a search of Brown's home earlier this month, with federal partners tying the weapon to this crime scene and one other from back in May.
We want to continue to use our federal partners to track the ballistics to each gun that we recover.
Brown already in custody and charged with attempted murder for the separate May shooting taking place in Northeast Baltimore. Police saying Brown once again caught on surveillance cameras firing shots at an unknown victim. These incidents just the latest examples of violent crime tightening its grip on Baltimore City's youth.
These young people that we're discussing today made the wrong choice that ended lives and changed countless forever. As a result, they will be held accountable to the full extent of the law.
And these arrests, just the latest on a list of up to 10 suspects, 6 of which police are still searching for.
I want to be very clear, this investigation is not ending anytime soon. Every tool in our tool belt will be used to identify and apprehend those responsible for this horrific and tragic incident.
Now, in total, Brown is facing 75 charges, while the teen is facing 18 charges. Sources close to Fox 45 have also confirmed that the 14-year-old was a student at Patterson High School, which is where he was arrested earlier this week. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. The 14-year-old is now the youngest person facing charges in the Brooklyn Day shooting. As youth violence spikes in Maryland, we've heard from prosecutors and law enforcement officials across Maryland calling for changes to juvenile justice laws. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues our live team coverage. And Mackenzie, you've been following the juvenile crime crisis. Do you think this is a tipping point for those in leadership positions?
Well, Guy, that's certainly the question that we're asking legislative leaders right now. Here we have another example of a young person facing very serious charges. And as we continue to report on this, we hear from more and more prosecutors from around the state. They all have the same message. The current laws simply aren't working.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here today.
Baltimore police announcing another arrest in the Brooklyn mass shooting.
And a 14-year-old juvenile male of Baltimore were both served with warrants yesterday.
Just as the 14-year-old set to start a new chapter of life.
With the assistance of Baltimore School Police, took the juvenile male into custody at a local school.
Now facing 18 charges.
This young man ruined his life by making this decision.
This young teen adds to the growing list of juvenile crime examples, a crisis prosecutors are begging lawmakers to address. Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says the Juvenile Justice Reform Plan and the Interrogation Act
has tied our hands is also, the interrogation. We must do something.
But it's not just Bates in Baltimore.
I think that we need to revisit a lot of these changes that we made.
Baltimore County's top attorney.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
From Carroll County to Calvert and Wacomico, top prosecutors telling Fox 45 News there are few, if any, consequences, and the offenders know it when it comes to juvenile crime, even down in overwhelmingly Democratic Montgomery County.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day. They get picked up for the second one, can't detain them. They're back in the community again the next day. They pick up a third. They're back in the community again the next day.
And that is happening. Baltimore County Police arresting an 11-year-old for stealing cars 13 times since May 31st, only to bring him back to his parents, too young to face charges.
That's what uninsured motorists for, people like you.
The same thing in the city. Video obtained by Fox 45 News showing another 11-year-old released to family after allegedly stealing a car. Time and time again, leaders speaking out against the General Assembly's changes to juvenile crime laws. In Prince George's County, a 15-year-old known as Baby K charged in a brutal bus attack.
Under the new laws of the state of Maryland, it has become more difficult for police to question young people about anything.
We have 15 and 14-year-olds running about our community at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, armed and dangerous, unaccountable, and unafraid. None of us feel safe. I don't feel safe stopping at a gas station to get gas.
One of the architects of the juvenile reform laws, Senator Jill Carter. She stands by what happened.
Should there be some steps that can be codified to ensure that there is accountability for their actions?
You mean for the children?
Yes.
The under 13s?
Yes.
So I don't know that there should be anything codified for them. I mean, I think already.
Doesn't that send the message that they
like
won't
I've
be held
said,
accountable?
That the court can have the ability to have oversight and make decisions, take the child out of the home, order certain programs and stuff. The belief that laws need to be changed because nothing can be done is part of a false narrative that's been spread.
But prosecutors and police who are on the ground disagree and argue if lawmakers don't act, the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland will likely continue or get worse. Now, this afternoon, I did get a statement from Senate President Bill Ferguson. He tells me that lawmakers during the next legislative session will look at the possibility of making changes to some of these current laws to ensure there is consequences for these actions. You can read his full statement on our website at foxbaltimore.com. I also reached out to House Speaker Adrian Jones, but so far, we haven't gotten a response. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you.
Answered questions about safe streets.
They need to be a little bit more aggressive about dealing with this. And at the same time, it's all well and good to say, we're going to put something in someone's file that they did something wrong and okay, they're being disciplined. But disciplining these police officers doesn't bring the victims back. And, the key thing is what is going to be long-term to make sure there's better community engagement with the police.
Dede says voters will not forget this historic shooting, and depending on if and when solutions are implemented, it could impact Mayor Scott, who's up for re-election.
It's how he's going to handle tomorrow. But because the thing is, people will give you a little bit of a pass for the first kind of incident, and you have to deal with it. But if there's a second thing like this, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, you already, it's kind of like flunking a test that you've taken twice.
Reporters here at City Hall yesterday also limited to questions, leaving many things shrouded in secrecy. Didi says often when leaders don't have the answers, they don't want the questions. Reporting live from City Hall, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. For our full coverage on the after-action report, the Brooklyn Day shooting investigation, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
It's not only just unethical, but it's criminal.
New information about alleged wiretapping from the executive branch in Harford County. The new evidence coming to light.
This is the worst storm I've been through.
After the storm, new video coming in a powerful hurricane which tears through Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas.
And if you'll be headed to the State Fair this evening, 5 p.m. temperatures right near 80 degrees. Good breeze here, and actually gets almost cool overnight as we fall down into the 60s to near 70 by 9. I'm going to let you know when we could be seeing some temperatures threatening records in the 90s. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Former President Donald Trump formally pleads not guilty to criminal charges in Georgia. Trump today waived his arraignment, meaning he won't have to appear at a hearing next week. He and 18 co-defendants are accused of conspiring to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in Georgia. Trump says the prosecution is political, aimed at derailing his current run for the White House.
In counties under pressure, it's been more than a month since a Harford County councilman accused County Executive Bob Casserly of spying on his communications.
And while Casserly says the probe was allowed as part of an internal investigation, Councilman Aaron Penman now says he's received more evidence to back up the serious allegations.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live right now with details on a newly public email sent between county officials. Amy?
Yes, so the councilman tells me it was a public records request under the Maryland Public Information Act that brought this new information to light. We've now learned there were two nearly identical requests, both sent minutes apart on May 30th and marked with high importance. This newly public correspondence shows members of the Castle administration not only sought any and all emails, but also requested any text messages and phone call records between County Councilman Aaron Penman and 5 other people. Those recipients included Harford County Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor and former county executive Barry Glassman. Out of those 5 people, today Councilman Aaron Penman acknowledged his records are all accessible through that Maryland Public Information Act, but claims it was an overreach by the administration to allegedly sidestep that process.
He didn't follow the procedures, the protocols that are in place. It's troubling.
And Amy, how is the county executive responding to this new correspondence, which shows the probe also included possible texts and phone calls?
Yeah, so as they have for several weeks, the Castle administration continues to rebuff these allegations of spying and illegal wiretap violations. Today, a spokesperson telling me that search only returned 5 emails that were reviewed one time, they say, and they say that search did not match any text messages. They continue to say they did nothing wrong as part of this internal probe. Mary, Kai, back to you.
All right, Amy, thank you. Communities across the southeastern United States are recovering from Hurricane Idalia, and that's going to be a long road. That storm passed over Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas, bringing a massive storm surge, winds of more than 100 miles an hour sustained, and massive flooding. Georgia is reporting 1 death from the storm. Local officials who saw the hurricane say they were afraid for their lives.
Every house on my block's got water damage. It's prone to flooding, but nothing like this.
We're trying to get in the truck, and it's up to barely able to get the doors open.
Well, one of the top priorities is the emergency response to restoring power to residents. More than 100,000 people still dealing with outages in Florida and another 80,000 in the dark in Georgia. Some analysts are predicting the recovery cost for the storm could top more than $20 billion.
Happening right now, a live look to Ocean City as thousands of people get ready to head down the ocean, Mary, for the holiday weekend. If you're going to the beach, Mary, you might be ready for some strong currents out there in the water. It's serious, those rip currents. Coastal communities, in fact, from the Carolinas to Jersey are seeing powerful waves because of Franklin, as Jonathan mentioned to us. Now, while that storm won't impact us directly, some areas are dealing with that potentially dangerous rip currents. Be aware. What is it, Mary? The red flag days?
It's red flag days. You got to be very cautious. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Mai is here with the very latest on what beachgoers are going to face if they go in the water.
Maybe today, tomorrow, want to just stick the big toe in. And then as we head into the weekend, the big toe. And then as we head into the weekend, or a small toe, whichever toe. But instead of going full on in, I know that as we head into Saturday, Sunday, the water temperature is going to be great, and then the beach conditions will get better. So again, on the HD radar right now, you see the last little remnants of what was causing all the problems across Florida, Georgia. This still Idalia, it's still a tropical storm, which means still there's some heavy rain and there's some wind, especially as you get way down towards the Carolinas. Even the last few hours, we've had some light rain reported out of those little western kind of periphery segments of the system in Ocean City. Now, the waves, those will last a little bit longer. Notice, again, here's going to be that problem as we head through the day on Friday. Still seeing some of those yellows and oranges close to the coastline. That's Idalia as well as Franklin circulation helping to push in some easterly winds. But notice over the weekend, those waves do begin to come down. Instead of, say, 3 to 5, maybe 6, 7 feet, or more like 3 to 4 feet as we head into Saturday, Sunday, and especially Labor Day on Monday. So things will improve by then. Winds also have been a little bit brisk today, especially as you get down toward Ocean City. It's been up to about 30 miles an hour in gusts. Around here, about 15 miles an hour. Nice kind of cool feel to things, up to about 20 in gusts in Baltimore. And of course, that's on the very rear remnants or the very rear periphery effects of Idalia. I shouldn't say remnants. It's still a tropical storm with winds at 65 miles an hour, but it is moving offshore and eventually zooming its way out into the open Atlantic. And then, of course, there's Franklin, still a very powerful hurricane at Category 2. But again, this is also going to be moving way out into the open Atlantic waters and probably gobbling up this Jose. These two storms are going to combine. Franklin going to kind of take advantage of Jose's energy and clouds and thunderstorms. And probably by Friday, that should be gone. You see those yellows. That's a couple of low chance of development in addition to all of that across the Atlantic. Not too concerned about those yet. But there's another system that's right off the coast of Africa that has a high chance of becoming our next tropical depression. So lots to watch. 82 now. It is nice and dry. Will remain so as we work through the remainder of today and actually the next several days as all the tropical mess moves east. And look what happens for us. Even those showers down Ocean City way, they clear. Temperature settling down into the 50s to near 60 overnight. Another gorgeous day tomorrow. Big heat, though, over the weekend. Could be threatening records Sunday and beyond. Well, into next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Will a strike ground planes at BWI? What pilots are demanding if airlines want to stop them from walking off the job?
New concerns tonight about mental and physical health of America's top leaders after another scare caught on camera. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a look.
Well, back with live pictures of the U.S. Capitol, where there are talks about how old is too old to be an elected official. It comes on the heels of Republican leader Mitch McConnell freezing once again during a press conference yesterday. But it is not just that 81-year-old McConnell whose fitness is under the microscope. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman explains.
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test?
Even before he was elected, questions arose about President Biden's mental sharpness that then only grew after physical falls or instances of perceived confusion.
We need to make sure we've got someone at the top of their game. Joe Biden is not at the top of his game.
A survey of our viewers overwhelmingly shows they believe Biden's not mentally or physically fit for another 4 years. But now Republicans have in-party pressures on that front too, as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell had a second public spell of freezing up in front of cameras, seemingly unable to briefly speak.
There is a time to lead and a time to pass on the torch to another generation.
There's often been scrutiny over politicians' fitness to serve, but in this case, it is two of Washington's most powerful positions. And the worries not just over age, but also acuity, which is also being questioned of California's Senator Dianne Feinstein, who's appeared confused after returning from a long absence due to poor health.
Yeah, just say aye. Okay, just aye. Thank you.
Though age limits are seen as an easier standard to measure and cap, and of course, term limits. One Democrat considering running against Biden posting, "For goodness sake, the family, friends, and staff of Senators Feinstein and McConnell are doing them and our country a tremendous disservice. It's time for term limits for Congress and the Supreme Court and some basic human decency."
The people who would be term limited would need to vote for that. That's not going to happen.
Though more and more Americans saying that time has come. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
A first-of-its-kind effort to help Baltimore students succeed. A closer look at a math program inspired by a Project Baltimore report. Crews wasting entire days in Baltimore County. What we're learning about major issues in the Public Works Department.
One person is dead and another person injured. An 18-year-old are injured after a bus crash in Howard County. Police say this happened around 3:30 this morning. A Greyhound carrying 38 people hit a Buick on Route 32 that's in Howard County. Police say the Buick was driving the wrong way on the road. The 37-year-old from Columbia died on the scene. The bus driver and 17 passengers were taken to the hospital.
Well, happening right now, a Board of Education meeting in Howard County is scheduled for tonight. Parents hoping to voice concerns over a string of issues with bus service for their children. Through the first week of school, the county canceled more than 20 bus routes, and kids that did get picked up frequently arrived late to class. Parents are pointing the finger at the county's new out-of-state contractor, Zoom Transportation, saying drivers did not practice their routes and were not prepared to transport their kids.
It's very unacceptable. Finding out that the bus drivers did not practice the route, that is not a good representation of what we're dealing with.
If he's doing all that and disrupting the lives of our children and their education, we think he should be held accountable.
Well, some parents have even called for the Howard County Superintendent's resignation over the bus problems. The superintendent has promised a fix to the problems as quickly as possible. Now, if your family experiences any issue with the school bus systems, we definitely want to hear about it. Send any information and relevant photos or videos to the email address on your screen, news@foxbaltimore.com.
The latest statewide test scores show Maryland students are still struggling in math. In Baltimore City, over 9% of third graders, eighth graders scored proficient last year. As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, to help, 60 students in Baltimore recently completed a first-of-its-kind free summer learning program inspired by a FOX45 report.
You want Sprite?
Yeah.
Soda? Pizza,
Graduation cake?
Cake.
Are we allowed to get another piece?
Yeah. Memories.
Oh my God.
I'm so proud of you. This is the first ever graduating class of Sylvan Learning's first ever free summer learning program.
So the first two people I'm going to honor here today had perfect attendance. First off, Caden Thompson.
These students, like Caden Thompson, attended the University of Maryland, Baltimore location.
All right, congratulations.
In total, 60 students at 3 city locations signed up for the program, which ran 90 minutes a day, 4 days a week, for 5 weeks. All of it focused on math, and all of it at no cost.
It's a great program. I mean, Sylvan's reputation goes back years and years here in the Baltimore area.
Brian Pinkney is Caden's great uncle.
Tutoring, at no cost, you can't pass anything like that up. It's a great opportunity for him to learn math.
An opportunity inspired by one mother's desperate plea for help.
In Baltimore City, you having a black child, a male child at that, is only 2 ways out. You're either going to be dead or locked up. And I don't want that for my son.
Nichelle Watkins' son was in 4th grade last year at Johnston Square Elementary and very far behind in his education. Johnston Square was one of 23 schools that a Project Baltimore investigation found had 0 students among those tested who scored proficient in math in 2022. When we first interviewed Watkins in February, she needed help.
Look around. I'm in public housing. I can't afford no $1,000 tutor from Sylvan, but that's what he needs, a tutor.
The enormity of the statistics you described could be something that is daunting or depressing, or you can build programs and begin to deliver in the community and invite families and help the kids.
Which is why Sylvan Learning and the University of Maryland did. The university provided the space. Sylvan provided the tutors. By the end of the program, each child received about $1,500 of tutoring for free. The goal is to prepare the students for the start of the school year.
6 times 3 is 6, 12, 18.
By limiting summer learning loss.
879 times 4. Yes.
And ensuring that love for learning.
So that's 0 right here.
Does not take 3 months off.
If we help 1, 10, 20, 30 of them over the course of the year be stronger and go further and succeed, it's a win.
Sylvan Learning told FOX45 the program's success has inspired them to expand to more Baltimore locations next summer. The idea may even be duplicated in other cities.
Hey, do we get it?
How'd he do? Oh, he loves the program, and he doesn't complain. So I know he's involved in learning and likes it.
If they offer this program again, would you sign up again?
Right now, we'd sign up. Yes, we would.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Great job. Now grab your cake.
Some new information tonight on a report revealing mismanagement in the Baltimore County Department of Public Works.
The Office of the Inspector General for the county says an investigation found crews were wasting time and inflating work hours to hide the fact that they were delaying jobs. We're joined by Inspector General Kelly Madigan to break down the findings. Ms. Madigan, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
The report found some of the crews in question were spending more than half their day doing nothing. Just how extensive was the waste here, and how much did it cost taxpayers?
Oh, that's a great question. So we got a complaint that was specific about a certain group of employees that were failing to do what was required of them. We put in the report that we're not sure how widespread it was because the nature of the complaint was so focused. That's what we focused on. But we found that there were kind of under-reporting. They were not performing to the standards. Management wasn't running the appropriate tests, and that ultimately translated into waste, in that some of these work orders had fraudulent work time. They didn't match with the GPS data. And so we made a number of recommendations, because that's kind of the purpose, to figure out ways to make Baltimore County more efficient.
Ms. Madigan, are we talking about county employees here, or are we talking about contracted employees? And then what's being done to address the backlog of the work?
That's a great question. So it's county employees. We are tasked as the county with performing preventative maintenance and responding to alarms on certain assets and utilities. Our investigation and report showed that the work orders that were supposed to be completed weren't necessarily being done in a timely basis, and that reports could have been run to get a better sense of how many reports were outstanding. It's my understanding, based on the response from the administration, that they are beginning to implement some of those steps, which is a really great thing.
Yeah, you mentioned GPS. You would think that would be a deterrent for being at the right place at the right time. What other steps are being taken to prevent this in the future? Make sure supervisors in the department are better able to identify some of the waste like this?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that's really the heart of the report. We found that there is a Baltimore County rule that basically said supervisors are responsible for knowing what their employees are doing and using that GPS data to confirm that they're going to the locations that they're supposed to be going to. One of the recommendations that our report makes is that there should be more reporting. Supervisors should have a better job kind of logging that to try to get a sense of how, where their crews are, what they're on track to do, and kind of what work is outstanding.
All right, Inspector General Madigan, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about some of this tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Making headlines right now, the Southwest Airlines Pilot Association conducted its first ever multi-base international picket. This was BWI this morning, LAX in Los Angeles, Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, Houston's Hobby Airport, and Chicago's Midway Airport. The Southwest Airlines Pilots Association says it's been trying to reach a contract agreement with the airlines. The association says Southwest is the last major airline without an agreement in principle, and they're ready to start a full-scale strike if an agreement isn't reached soon. Now, the main point of contention right now is what the pilots say is fair or unfair, scheduling practices.
We've had, thousands and thousands of days off taken from us over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, from being forced to work on days off. They call it JA, and that happens every day. And so our pilots are frustrated. We want to improve our work rules, and really the idea is to make the company more efficient.
Meantime, flight attendants at American Airlines have voted to strike. They're fighting for a new contract with pay raises and more staffing on flights. Last week, the airline reached a deal with pilots that gives them a 21% raise and a 46% raise by 2027. Off-duty flight attendants are already holding informational picketing events at dozens of airports to put pressure on their employer. We have a recall alert for you tonight. The warning for some owners whose cars could roll away at any moment. A 121-mile rush through the city. We take a look at the Maryland Classic, the cycling classic, before the bikers hit the road this weekend.
And the evening commute, a pretty uneventful one, a little bit breezy. Open the windows, enjoy it. Temperatures at 81 at 5, dropping into the 70s into the early evening hours. But we've got the potential of some tropical weather in the Atlantic, as well as a big warming trend for the Labor Day holiday week. I'm going to break it down hour by hour, day by day, by Weather Authority forecast.
Here's the Fox 45 quad box. More than 70 people are dead in South Africa after fire destroys an apartment building overnight. The building in the nation's capital was occupied by people experiencing homelessness. Fire officials say it appears that fire started with a candle. Alabama's Attorney General wants to prosecute people who help women travel out of that state to have abortions. It comes after a group sued the Attorney General, arguing he's violated their constitutional rights. Alabama has one of the strictest abortion laws in the country. Trader Joe's is recalling its black bean tamales. That's because they might contain undeclared milk. The products have a best before date of June 19th of 2025. This is the grocery store's 6th recall in 5 weeks. Ford is recalling nearly 42,000 of its F-250 and F-350 trucks. That's because of a break in the rear axle shaft that can cause the trucks to roll away or at least lose driver power. Owners will be notified and the dealerships will fix that problem for free. Be the first to know about breaking news by downloading the Fox 45 app for your smartphone. Search WBFF in your app store. Well, we're looking ahead to America's top cycling race returning to Baltimore this weekend. We're talking about the Maryland Cycling Classic. The 121-mile race is happening Sunday. It will kick off at noon in Sparks like it did last year in Baltimore County and end around 5 at the Inner Harbor. You'll start to notice road closures Friday evening. This is the second time that race is being held. Last year, it drew about 70,000 spectators. Go to foxbaltimore.com for a list of road closures. It looks like Fox 45 News might be shaking things up at the Maryland State Fair. Our very own Tom Rogers and Tiffany Lady T. Watson are gearing up for the fair's undeniably dairy shake-off. they'll be looking to reclaim the throne as the Baltimore station who can serve up the best milkshake. The Dream Team gave us a sneak peek of their Barbieheimer-inspired recipe. Get the two movies, the combo?
This is part of it right here. This is shake. So we've got some strawberry and vanilla ice cream, right? And then you want to mix one up right now.
I'm gonna mix this
We
up.
line the glass, and we will not be this fancy at the contest.
That I can actually cook, y'all, because he be trying.
Fresh strawberries, heavy whipping cream. Mix that up, blend it. Then we hit it with some. Yeah, we got to shake it up. I know it takes a little bit to get that one going. They'll have better blenders there, but I did the one earlier.
There you go. Okay.
And then you pour it into the glass, and then we hit it with one of these ready whips, and then we decorate.
It's a little bit of rum, but I'll take what I can get.
Well, there's a 12-year-old. There's a 12-year-old that's going to be judging there this year,
okay.
so they frowned upon that when I said.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. Strawberry ice cream is my favorite thing to use to make a milkshake. I don't want to win any whipped cream, though, Jonathan. Just ice cream and milk, or maybe some non-dairy doing almond milk. By the way, Lady T and Tom, you can watch them at the contest live tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the fairgrounds. Go Lady T and Tom, go FOX45. Right? We've won this before in the past.
Yeah, you can
Josh.
see there on the
Vetus won it one
table.
year.
Those, yeah, when Vetus Reed was here, chief meteorologist, he won.
Yes.
With another one of our meteorologists. You can see the two glasses there. Those are our previous wins. So we expect another glass this year, right? We salute you, right? All right. Well, it's going to be a good few days for a big cold milkshake coming up as we head into the end of our Labor Day holiday weekend. Breezy and dry for now if you're headed out to the State Fair this evening. Gorgeous weather. Actually stays okay into tomorrow as well. The high seas will remain at the beach, I think, all the way through tomorrow. Over the weekend, I think all the rip currents and the high seas will begin to alleviate, so that's some good news. And once again, could have a nice size heat wave that's going to be working in for the remainder of the holiday weekend. HD radar showing the last little bits of the remains here of what is still Tropical Storm Idalia. That is moving eastbound. Even over the past few hours, there's been some light rain reported at Ocean City. So keep that in mind if you have any travels there this evening. Still kind of gloomy, cloudy with some extra wind. But the bigger, more long-lasting threat here is going to be the potential of high seas all the way through tomorrow. This is what our wave heights forecast says. Right offshore, about 7-foot waves. And I think onshore, it's probably going to be maybe 3 to 5 foot waves at the beaches. And that'll go into Saturday potentially as well. But we're on the decline. I think that's the biggest wave Saturday of the weekend days. And then as we head into Sunday and Monday, we're down to about average with our about 4-foot waves, or maybe even less as all the tropical activity dies out and moves away. It's been kind of a breezy day. Winds out of the north and northeast at about 10 to 15. Some gusts up to about 20 to 25. Down Ocean City way, it's been windier, up to about 25 to 30 miles an hour. Now, Idalia, the new updates just coming in. Winds at 65 miles an hour still, so it's still a tropical storm, but it's going to begin really affecting not a whole lot of anybody over the next several days, moving out way out into the Atlantic. Then there's also Franklin. That's a Category 1 hurricane. So that's weakened a little bit, but still it's got enough wave action with it to present us with some of those higher than average seas and the rough surf at the beaches. And then Jose, that also is out there, and that's probably going to get eaten up eventually by Franklin. So that won't be a threat. A couple other yellows here on the map on the tropical satellite. Those are low chance of development, and then there's a high chance right off the coast of Africa. So we're watching a lot here, but nothing immediately affecting us except for the beaches. 82 winds out of the north at 13 on the backside of Idalia. That's now moving off the Carolina coastline. The rain and wind going with it. There are those showers around Ocean City through the early evening. After that, it looks like we go with mainly clear skies and some cool temperatures overnight. Look at some of those 50s setting up. Mid to upper 50s to near 60 by tomorrow morning. Dry, comfy day on Friday. 83 for getting away or going to the State Fair. Warming up on Saturday. And look at that big heat. Could be threatening records maybe not only Sunday, but also Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Going to be pretty hot for Labor Day. Good one for the pool with a high maybe 95 to 100.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, 2 teenagers have been arrested for their role, or alleged role, in July's mass shooting in South Baltimore. We have new information coming up. And is it safe to save money by getting baby goods secondhand? A few things that you should know if you decide to do that. Welcoming a new baby brings many joys and also a lot of expenses. Patrice Sanders looks at the risk of buying baby goods secondhand.
Back to the newborn phase again, especially with 3 other kids at home.
With the due date of baby boy number 4 fast approaching, Sarah Peterson is making sure she has everything ready.
Luckily, we'd ended up keeping a lot of our things from the other babies. So we have a lot of clothes. We had to get a new changing pad.
Shopping secondhand or accepting hand-me-downs from friends can help you get what you need without breaking the bank. But you still have to be careful that the gear you get for your baby is safe.
While it's illegal to sell recalled products, including on the secondhand market, people might not be aware of the law, or may not even realize that the product they're selling has been recalled.
And it's not uncommon to find recalled infant sleepers or other products. The CPSC recently sent a letter to Meta asking it to strengthen efforts to prevent the posting of banned and recalled consumer products for sale. Cribs with drop-down sides are another dangerous item to never buy. These have been linked to dozens of infant deaths and were banned in 2011. Even parents planning on using newer cribs still need to be careful.
Sometimes a used crib may be passed on to you disassembled. You won't know if it's missing any hardware unless you have the assembly instructions.
Used car seats are also problematic.
Buying used car seats is not a good idea because you won't reliably know a lot about the seat. You won't know the seat's crash history.
And if the labels and instructions aren't clear or available, you won't be able to check for recalls or check the expiration date. You won't even know if the seat is missing any parts. If you're still considering a used car seat that you know hasn't been in a crash, you'll want to check the seat's expiration date on the label and in the owner's manual, as well as search for any open recalls on that model. You can find the model number on the seat's manufacturer label. Sarah and her family welcomed baby Noah just days after this interview. Consumer Reports suggest that whenever you purchase a used item for your child, you check recalls.gov or the CPSC's recall site to make sure that it hasn't been recalled. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, Fox 45 News has obtained exclusive video showing a Baltimore council member in a tussle with a security guard. We'll tell you what happened. And 2 teens have been arrested in connection with the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, but continue concern about young people being accused of crimes. Breaking news tonight, 2 more arrests surrounding Baltimore's largest mass shooting at Brooklyn homes. What we're learning about the suspects as the investigation continues.
The latest arrest putting juvenile justice laws in Maryland under the microscope. We press city leaders on the changes needed to see a real difference.
And video you're seeing first on Fox, the Baltimore City Council member involved in a heated back and forth with the security guard.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
These young people that we're discussing today made the wrong choice that ended lives and changed countless forever. We will not rest until the Brooklyn community and the city of Baltimore gets the justice that we deserve.
We continue to follow the breaking news tonight. 2 more arrests in the Brooklyn Day shooting. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Police say an 18-year-old and 14-year-old are in custody.
A total of 4 teens have now been arrested and charged for their roles in the chaos, but police have no one in custody for the deadly shots that claimed the lives of 2 young people that July night.
We have live team coverage covering all angles of Baltimore's largest mass shooting. We begin with Rebecca Pryor. She was at that news conference today and has more on the arrests that were announced. Rebecca?
Yeah, tonight we're getting a much clearer picture of what happened during that deadly mass shooting. According to police, the teens accused of pulling the trigger allegedly acting together.
2 months after the worst mass shooting in Maryland's history.
We're here today to provide an update on the Brooklyn criminal investigation.
Local and federal officials joining forces to bring in 2 new arrests.
This investigation has truly been an all-hands-on-deck approach.
One suspect just 14 years old, preventing law enforcement from disclosing his identity. The other, 18-year-old Aaron Brown, who charging documents reveal acted alongside 18-year-old Tristan Jackson, the first alleged gunman charged 2 weeks prior. Investigators claiming both teens caught entering the event together on police surveillance cameras. And when brought in for questioning, Brown admitting to firing shots inside Gretna Court, the heart of the block party turned crime scene. Charging documents going on to say in the midst of the chaos, Brown sustaining a shot to his hand. Brown, Jackson, and an unidentified third party then flee to a side street where Brown passes the gun to Jackson, who continues the firing, this time at 7 people who are running away. That very gun allegedly found during a search of Brown's home earlier this month, with federal partners tying the weapon to this crime scene and one other from back in May.
We want to continue to use our federal partners to track the ballistics to each gun that we recover.
Brown already in custody and charged with attempted murder for the separate May shooting taking place in Northeast Baltimore. Police saying Brown once again caught on surveillance cameras firing shots at an unknown victim. These incidents just the latest examples of violent crime tightening its grip on Baltimore City's youth.
These young people that we're discussing today made the wrong choice that ended lives and changed countless forever. As a result, they will be held accountable to the full extent of the law.
And these arrests, just the latest on a list of up to 10 suspects, 6 of which police are still searching for.
I want to be very clear, this investigation is not ending anytime soon. Every tool in our tool belt will be used to identify and apprehend those responsible for this horrific and tragic incident.
Now, in total, Brown is facing 75 charges. That's according to police. And the 14-year-old is facing 18 charges. Now, sources close to Fox 45 also add that that 14-year-old was confirmed to be a student at Patterson High School, which is where he was arrested earlier this week. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. For the 14-year-old, now the youngest person facing charges in the Brooklyn Day shooting as youth violence spikes in Maryland. We have heard from prosecutors and law enforcement officials across the state calling for changes to these new juvenile justice laws. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues our live team coverage. Mackenzie, you've been following the juvenile crime crisis. People are asking, is this a tipping point?
Yeah, Mary, that's certainly the question that we're asking legislative leaders. Now we have another young person facing serious charges, and the prosecutors that we've been talking to from all across Maryland say that the juvenile justice laws right now simply aren't working.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here today.
Baltimore police announcing another arrest in the Brooklyn mass shooting.
And a 14-year-old juvenile male of Baltimore were both served with warrants yesterday.
Just as the 14-year-old set to start a new chapter of life,
With the assistance of Baltimore School Police, took the juvenile male into custody at a local school.
now facing 18 charges.
This young man ruined his life by making this decision.
This young teen adds to the growing list of juvenile crime examples, a crisis prosecutors are begging lawmakers to address. Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says the Juvenile Justice Reform Plan and the Interrogation Act
has tied our hands also. The interrogation. We must do something.
But it's not just Bates in Baltimore.
I think that we need to revisit a lot of these changes that we made.
Baltimore County's top attorney.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
From Carroll County to Calvert and Wacomico, top prosecutors telling Fox 45 News there are few, if any, consequences, and the offenders know it when it comes to juvenile crime, even down in overwhelmingly Democratic Montgomery County.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day. They get picked up for the second one, can't detain them. They're back in the community again the next day. They pick up a third. They're back in the community again the next day.
And that is happening. Baltimore County Police arresting an 11-year-old for stealing cars 13 times since May 31st, only to bring him back to his parents, too young to face charges.
That's what uninsured motorists for, people like you.
The same thing in the city. Video obtained by Fox 45 News showing another 11-year-old released to family after allegedly stealing a car. Time and time again, leaders speaking out against the General Assembly's changes to juvenile crime laws. In Prince George's County, a 15-year-old known as Baby K charged in a brutal bus attack.
Under the new laws of the state of Maryland, it has become more difficult for police to question young people about anything.
We have 15 and 14-year-olds running about our community at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, armed and dangerous, unaccountable, and unafraid. None of us feel safe. I don't feel safe stopping at a gas station to get gas.
One of the architects of the juvenile reform laws, Senator Jill Carter. She stands by what happened.
Should there be some steps that can be codified to ensure that there is accountability for their actions?
You mean for the children?
Yes.
The under 13s?
Yes.
So I don't know that there should be anything codified for them. I mean, I think already.
Doesn't that send the message that they
like
won't
I've
be held
said,
accountable?
that the court can have the ability to have oversight and make decisions, take the child out of the home, order certain programs and stuff. The belief that laws need to be changed because nothing can be done is part of a false narrative that's been spread.
But prosecutors and police who are on the ground disagree and argue if lawmakers don't act, the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland will likely continue or get worse. And this afternoon, I did get a statement from Senate President Bill Ferguson when we reached out to him after news of this latest arrest. The Senate President tells me that during the next legislative session, lawmakers will consider making changes to the current juvenile justice laws to ensure there are consequences for actions. You can read his full statement on our website at foxbaltimore.com. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, some community leaders in Baltimore are also calling for change. Pastor P.M. Smith has spent time working with young people in the city. Earlier this week, he said the governor and lawmakers need to do more.
Total culpability is on the legislature because they could do something. They have the authority. They just won't. Our governor could call a special session. He has authority. He just won't. There will be no accountability. I don't care how much the mayor talks about it. I don't care how much Mr. Moore talks about it. I don't care how much the legislators talk about it, Mr. Ferguson or Ms. Jones, until you exercise the authority that you have to curb that behavior. Maybe not change it, but curb it. So there's blood on their hands, whether it's the young person dying or the young person injuring and killing somebody else.
Well, during a recent sit-down interview with political commentator Armstrong Williams, Governor Moore also said Maryland's juvenile crime laws need to be re-examined.
We have got to make the adjustments necessary that there can be real measurements and levels of accountability. When you have a person who is a repeat violent offender, I'm sorry, I'm coming after you.
Well, he stopped short of mentioning any specific changes. Fox 45 News followed up with the governor's office asking what changes he thinks are necessary to ensure real measurements of accountability. We asked why the governor thinks Maryland should wait for the General Assembly to return in January for those changes to be made. And does the governor believe the Department of Juvenile Services is broken and not holding juveniles accountable for crimes they commit?
The governor's office sent Fox 45 News a statement saying the governor will continue working with legislators and community leaders to provide solutions that bring real measures of accountability. But again, no specifics on what he wants to change.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Are lawmakers ignoring the juvenile crime crisis? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
The Brooklyn Day mass shooting after-action report is igniting a debate over who should be held accountable. Political experts say while there were strong words from city leaders yesterday, only time will tell if actions match those words. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live from City Hall with that part of the story. Maxine?
Well, Kai, there's disappointment and distrust coming from nearly every corner of the city after the release of that report just yesterday afternoon. Now, city leaders admitting fault and promising accountability at a press conference yesterday, highlighting many failures within several city agencies on the day of the shooting. Mayor Brandon Scott calling it one of the most painful chapters in the city's history. But is he stepping up and owning the shortfalls now? Political analyst John Deedy doesn't think so.
They've kind of expressed sympathy, frustration, etc. But, there's the expression that President Truman said, the buck stops here. The question about ownership is also one other thing. What's going to be the aftermath? What's going to be the consequences?
Now, Deedy says voters certainly will not forget what has been a historic shooting here for the city of Baltimore. He says it could impact Brandon Scott's chances of re-election next year if no changes are made. Reporting live from City Hall, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you for our full coverage on the after-action report and the latest in the Brooklyn Day investigation. Head to foxbaltimore.com.
Fox 45 News obtains video of what appears to show Councilman Ryan Dorsey in a scuffle with a security guard. It happened last spring. Take a look at it. The video shows what seems to be the councilman getting into a fight with the guard over his bike. You can see Dorsey yanking the bike away from the guard before the guard then grabs it back and takes the councilman outside of the building. And then the guard seems to shove Dorsey out the door. We will have a full report on this video on Fox 45 tonight at 10 on the CW. Coming up after the break, outrage in Howard County after canceled buses leave students stranded. The calls now to hold the superintendent accountable.
Plus, we continue to follow the fallout from Hurricane Idalia. The new video coming into our newsroom of destruction.
And Idalia continuing to pull out into the Atlantic, and around here it's just really nice weather that's moving in. A little bit of a breeze if you're headed out to the State Fair this evening. Day 5 kicking off with an evening session here, 5 p.m. at 81, 74 at 7, and 70 on the rides at 9 p.m. Might even need a light jacket late. I'm going to let you know how much cooler things get over the next couple of days and when we could have some big heat arriving. Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Happening right now, parents and Howard County school leaders gathering ahead of a Board of Education meeting tonight. Parents hoping to voice their concerns over a string of issues with bus service for kids. Through the first week of school, the county canceled more than 20 bus routes, and kids who did get picked up frequently arrived late to class. Parents are pointing the finger at the county's new out-of-state contractor Zoom Transportation, saying drivers did not practice their routes and were not prepared to transport kids. If your family experiences any issues with school bus systems, we want to hear about it. Send us information and relevant photos or videos to the email address right there on your screen, news@foxbaltimore.com. Well, Tropical Storm Idalia is out over the Atlantic Ocean now after leaving a path of destruction in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas.
There has been significant damage, particularly along Florida's Big Bend, but the community is resilient, and we are going to work hard to make sure people get what they need.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says as of last night, there were 40 successful rescues. Officials are urging Florida residents to stay inside as cleanup and search efforts continue. For all of the Tropical Storm Idalia's damage, power crews are doing a good job of keeping the electricity on. More than 260,000 customers are without power across 4 states after the hurricane swept through. Most of them, 141,000, are in Florida, which took a direct hit when the storm was a Category 3 hurricane.
Power is being restored quickly. Thus far, 420,000 accounts that lost power during the storm have been restored.
Nearly 100,000 are out in Georgia, according to trackers with poweroutage.us. And take a look at this video out of South Carolina. Bands from Tropical Storm Idalia brought short-lived tornadoes to the state. One driver catching video of another car flipping over on a South Carolina highway Wednesday. It's hard to see, but there it is. My goodness. And it slammed into another car. The accident did cause minor injuries, but no major damages except to that car. Well, taking a live look at Ocean City tonight, thousands of people are getting ready to head down the ocean for the holiday weekend, but be aware there could be some strong rip currents in the water due to Hurricane Franklin. And this could cause some dangerous conditions for vacation goers. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers. Jonathan.
Yeah, Mary, those waters don't look too welcoming there at Ocean City. It looks like some rip currents as well as some pretty battering surf. So it's breezy, it's dry, beautiful weather here around the very outer periphery of Idalia that's moving its way now out into the western Atlantic. But there are still some, and you saw it there on the video, high seas at the beach driven by some gusty easterly winds. Even some showers have been down Ocean City way today. Rip currents to end the week, too. So maybe stay out of the water through especially today, tomorrow. I think things will begin to improve over the weekend as all this kind of releases its clutches and a big weekend warming trend takes place all across Maryland, especially here in Baltimore. We could be well into the 90s, threatening records Sunday and beyond. HG radar shows the last of Idalia that's now moving its way out across the Outer Banks and away from Chincoteague, Salisbury, Ocean City. Still some clouds south and east, but here in Baltimore, brilliant sunshine has broken out. And outside of that, that's the only game in town. Just gorgeous weather setting up. Again, the beach hazards, still some minor coastal flooding, Ocean City northbound all the way up to the Delaware beaches. Also, you see here through Friday, still some of those seas running 3 to 5, maybe locally 6 to 7 feet. But then those waves do begin to die down as we head into the weekend, as both Idalia as well as Franklin move offshore. That's what's been helping to drive this very gusty east to northeast wind flow. Still about 13 miles an hour here in Baltimore, giving us a real refreshing feel with the temperatures in the 70s and low 80s. An 11-mile-an-hour wind out of Chestertown. The winds gusting as high as about 21, Annapolis to Easton. But it's been about as high as 30 down Ocean City way. Idalia still is a tropical storm, winds at 65 miles an hour, moving quickly out into the open Atlantic and then eventually making a curve off to the north and remaining a tropical storm, but staying pretty far away from any U.S. interests. Then Franklin is a Category 1 hurricane now. It's been weakening, but still the shock wave of water is being sent back towards the U.S. coastline. The East Coast still problematic, and that will continue its way out into the open Atlantic as well, eventually actually gobbling up Jose over the next couple of days as their paths interact. There's a couple of yellows here on the open ocean on the tropical satellite. Those are some low chance of tropical development, and off of the coast of Africa, there could be our next tropical depression. So things really acting up here over the past few weeks. 83 right now, gusty wind on the mile 1 Townsend cam out of the east and northeast, keeping that dry weather in, rain and wind off the coast, continuing to move away with Idalia. And that even moves away from Ocean City and lower Delaware, as well as the lower Delmarva tonight. And then it's just cool. Look at those temperatures in the 50s to start tomorrow morning. I'm going officially with a low of 55, 83 tomorrow afternoon with sunshine, dry and comfortable, less wind. And the big heat picks up Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Could be threatening records mid to upper 90s.
Jonathan, thank you. Still ahead tonight, new details surrounding the spying accusations out of Harford County. The new evidence coming to light. Plus, a back and forth over the juvenile justice laws in place across Maryland, why critics argue some major changes need to be made.
Home prices getting bigger, houses getting smaller. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. We break down the latest shakeup in the housing market.
Topping your consumer news today, Americans are struggling to afford a home. Mortgage rates are getting bigger as some homes are getting smaller. The National Desk's Angela Brown has the story.
American homes are shrinking. Smaller living rooms, fewer bedrooms. Jeff Ostrowski, Bankrate.
The homeowners are settling for smaller homes. The homeowners also are settling for less than ideal locations.
The insider reporting census data shows that the median square footage of floor area for single-family starts in the U.S. peaking at over 2,500 during the first quarter of 2015. Now, over 2,100 as of the second quarter of 2023. But you are paying more.
Mortgage rates are at their highest levels in more than 20 years.
New listings also shrinking for now. The lead analyst for Housing Wire breaking down Wednesday's pending home sales data.
For the first time this year, what I saw in the weekly data is that we saw a noticeable decline week to week in new listings.
Some home builders constructing smaller homes to fit a smaller budget. But Ostrowski says smaller homes is a niche market.
The median size of new homes built in 2022 was just under 2,300 square feet, and that really hasn't changed significantly over the past decade.
A new report says the share of new home projects priced below $400,000 has declined in nearly every major metro since 2018. Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
The inflation gauge that the Federal Reserve closely tracks remained relatively low last month, showing signs of slowing price increases. The Commerce Department reported Thursday the Personal Consumption Expenditure Price Index was up 3.3% in July. That's up 0.3% compared to June. The Fed has set a target inflation rate of 2%. Well, the number of Americans applying for jobless claims fell slightly last week. The Labor Department reports benefit claims fell by 4,000 to 228,000 the week ending August 26. U.S. employers added more than 180,000 jobs in July, reflecting a healthy labor market. The unemployment rate also dipped to 3.5%, close to half a century low. Well, coming up after the break, we continue to follow the latest arrests in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. We press city leaders on the 3 levels of failure that took place that night. Plus, turmoil at Baltimore, Washington, at BWI, why Southwest pilots are taking part in a protest.
Privacy concerns continue between branches of government in Harford County.
That's right. Tonight, Councilman Aaron Penman, who's accusing County Executive Bob Casserly of spying on his emails and phone calls, says more evidence has come to light. Fox 45's Amy Simpson has more.
The councilman tells me it was a public records request under the Maryland Public Information Act that brought this new information to light. 2 emails sent minutes apart on May 30th, both marked information needed and of high importance. The emails sent between 2 Harford County government officials. I am requesting to receive any and all text messages and calls to Aaron Penman's county-issued cell phone from the following individuals. This newly public email reads in part, listing 5 names, including Harford County Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor, former County Executive Barry Glassman, and 3 others.
This record came from a PIA filed from one of those 5 individuals that the county executive's administration sought to intercept.
A copy of a nearly identical request asking for Councilman Aaron Penman's corresponding email records was made public earlier this month.
It's troubling.
This correspondence is at the center of spying allegations against Harford County Executive Bob Casserly. The serious accusations levied by the county councilman earlier this summer after Penman accused Casserly of misusing county funds.
A claim that we've misappropriated $7 million is a pretty serious allegation. So my administration started investigating that.
The county executive sat down with Fox 45 News earlier this month, saying the probe was all part of an internal investigation, rebuffing the councilman's accusations of spying and illegally wiretapping his communications.
All email servers are county property and they're subject to review by county officials. So that's what was done. It was a one-time snapshot.
This newly public email, however, reveals it was more than just emails requested by the Casserly administration. Penman acknowledges his records are all accessible through the Maryland Public Information Act, but claims it was an overreach by the administration to allegedly sidestep that process.
He didn't follow the procedures, the protocols that are in place.
Responding to Fox 45 News today, Harford County Executive Bob Casserly's office said a total of 5 emails were reviewed one time and no text messages matched that search. Again, adamant the probe was allowed as part of an internal investigation. While this privacy debate continues to play out in the court of public opinion, a criminal complaint about the alleged spying was referred to the Maryland state prosecutor, but the office of the state prosecutor says it does not comment on the existence or status of its investigations.
It's not only just unethical, but it's criminal. And I look forward to the state prosecutor concluding their investigation.
Councilman Penman says the Harford County Council will have its first meeting of the fall next week. And not only does he expect this privacy issue to be discussed, he says it's possible legislation may also be introduced to prevent this from happening again. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Today, we're here to talk about accountability for the reckless individuals who decided to pick up a gun and start shooting without any regard for lives of those around them, disrupting a peaceful event that was meant to celebrate that neighborhood.
Continuing coverage tonight, 2 more arrests announced in the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. Today, Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley and other city leaders announcing 18-year-old and a 14-year-old juvenile have been arrested on attempted murder charges.
Now, it comes almost 2 months after that mass shooting happened. It left 2 people killed and 28 others shot.
The latest announcement coming a day after that report came out, the After Action report highlighting the massive failures within city agencies, including the Baltimore Police Department, the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and the Housing Authority.
It also comes as the city deals with a juvenile crime crisis with young people seen as both suspects and victims in violent crimes. Current laws on the books surrounding juveniles are being put into question as top prosecutors in Maryland say it keeps them from doing their jobs.
And we have team coverage of the juvenile crime crisis. Fox 45's Tom Rogers is looking into juveniles' role in carjackings and car thefts across Baltimore and how the current laws are playing a role.
We begin with Megan Gillen and more on reaction to the After Action report.
City leaders addressing the After Action report from the Brooklyn Day mass shooting, saying the shooting that killed 2 and injured 28 others was entirely preventable. The report highlights failures from city leadership before and after the tragedy. Lifelong Baltimore resident Pastor P.M. Smith weighing in on the message this sends.
This should be called the After Inaction report. You have a police commissioner, Harrison, getting paid for doing nothing, Wormley getting paid to take the blame. You got police indifference. You got the housing authority saying we didn't know. You got Safe Street saying it's secret, we can't tell, right? You got city council saying, oh, we're disturbed and we're shocked. Let's call a meeting to do nothing. We are working with an administration that's arrogant, ignorant, incompetent, and has contempt for those of us who live in the city.
Pastor Smith, along those lines, the report also highlighting, quote, officer indifference as a serious concern here. What message does that send to the people looking to those officers for protection and safety? They don't care, and it starts at the top. Still no murder suspect in the shooting. The reward has now been raised to $88,000. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
In the meantime, there seems to be a disconnect between a state lawmaker and top prosecutors surrounding the juvenile justice laws that are currently on the books.
Prosecutors and law enforcement says those laws keep them from doing their jobs. Senator Joe Carter, who crafted the changes, says they're wrong.
I do think maybe law enforcement is misconstruing the law.
Those protections have given way to a protection of some people who have committed very heinous crimes, which yes, that does hamper what we are doing now.
It's becoming more and more difficult to hold juveniles accountable.
We're living in a time where, unfortunately, legislators, lawmakers, have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day. They get picked up for the second one, can't detain them. They're back in the community again the next day. They pick up a third. They're back in the community again the next day.
It makes it more challenging. The 11 and the 12-year-old, had it been a carjacking or an attempted carjacking, that meets the criteria for those offenders to be charged. But since it was a crime against property, which motor vehicle theft is a crime against property and not a crime of violence, it does not meet the criteria for charging.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
Juveniles across the state are regularly involved in carjackings and car thefts. Fox 45's Tom Rogers continues our team coverage.
The Baltimore Police Department is currently dealing with more than 7,000 car thefts so far this year. More than 300 are carjackings. Police say they are experiencing more youth involved, as just recently an 11-year-old was caught and released 13 times since March for stealing vehicles. Former Baltimore Police Commissioner Ed Norris says this issue with juvenile crime is not new. It's just getting worse, much worse, and more laws are not needed.
I agree. I think there's plenty of laws in the books. We don't need any more laws. They add them every year during session, never repeal any. They have plenty of laws in the books. They have to basically let the police do their job again, and the courts have to do their job, because the message is we don't take this very seriously. So why would you expect juveniles to? You set any kind of bar like this where it's an impossibility to charge anyone with a crime. Whatever the ruling is, you're opening the door for them to do exactly that, and that's why this is occurring, because they're not dumb. They know exactly what the law is.
Now, Norris says this has been a long-standing frustration with police officers for years, as they sometimes arrest youth multiple times in the same day because their parents are not either there or sometimes, or they just don't care. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
Well, if you feel you're not being heard, we want you to contact your lawmakers. We've got their phone numbers, email addresses listed right here on your screen. To reach House Speaker Adrian Jones, call 410-841-3800. For Senate President Bill Ferguson, the number 410-841-3600.
If you'd like to connect with more of the elected leaders who represent you, our website makes it easy. Go to foxbaltimore.com, click on the menu at the top left of your screen and select Lawmakers. From there, you can enter your home address to pull up your elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels. The Southwest Airlines Pilots Association conducted its first ever multi-base international picket. This was the scene at BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport this morning, as well as LAX in Los Angeles, Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, Houston Hobby in Texas, and also Chicago Midway in Illinois. The Airline Pilots Association says it's been trying to reach a deal with the airlines. The association says they're ready to start a full-scale strike if an agreement isn't reached. The main point of contention is what the pilots say are unfair scheduling practices.
We've had, thousands and thousands of days off taken from us over the last year, 2 years, 3 years,
from being forced to work on days off. They call it JA, and that happens every day. And so yeah, our pilots are frustrated. We want to improve our work rules, and really the idea is to make the company more efficient.
Meantime, flight attendants at American Airlines have voted to strike. They're fighting for a new contract with pay raises and more staffing on flights. Last week, the airline reached a deal with pilots that gives them a 21% raise and 46% raise by 2027. Off-duty flight attendants are already holding informational picketing events at a dozen airports to put pressure on them.
Making headlines tonight, former President Trump formally pleads not guilty to criminal charges in Georgia.
Trump waived his arraignment. Meantime, he won't have to appear at a hearing next week. He and 18 co-defendants are accused of conspiring to overturn the 2020 presidential results in the state of Georgia, which was won by Joe Biden. Trump says the prosecution is political, aimed at derailing his current run for the White House.
Well, Trump is being accused of inflating his net worth by as much as $2.2 billion every year over the course of a decade. New York Attorney General Letitia James now claiming a trial isn't even necessary to prove Trump and his family business committed financial fraud. Trump's lawyers argue the entire case should be thrown out because he got the loans too long ago for the matter to be handled in court. A judge is holding a hearing in September to hear both sides.
I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, why a group of college professors are suing a higher education system.
And we're going to be having some beautiful weather that sets up as we work our way into the overnight hours. Our exercise planner going to have some temperatures falling from the 80s back through the 70s, and it looks like that's going to be sticking with us for the next few days. Some nice weather. I'll let you know when the heat and humidity and some record high temperatures could be coming back in my Weather Authority forecast.
Well, summer might be coming to an end, but it's always a good time to barbecue. After the break, we take you to a local favorite with all they have to offer.